A dream to some.
A nightmare to others!
But I will give you a message. A message of death!
Oh yeah! Come on, baby!
Make no attempt to capture them. They must be exterminated.
Matron, take them away!
Stardust speaks to you.
But you must have patience, even while people die. Only thus can the whole evil be destroyed. You must let it grow.
Today we are in sunny Leeds.
We are.
We are here at the Archive, pub, cafe, bar, venue.
Thing.
We are here.
It's a bee. Get away. It's a bee.
Good start.
Yeah,
we are
good
here
start.
for the second Leeds Horror Film Festival.
The second horror film festival. When was the first, David?
Back in 2015.
There we go.
Due to various things, including an actual global pandemic,
That was
we've not had one for a while.
No.
But here we are. It's a different venue than before. We have a new venue than what we had before. A lot of the regulars have turned up, as well as some newcomers to the festival. Luke
That would be me.
included.
That would be me. This is my first time that I've been here.
So we are going to do a series of videos, as well as a full sort of combined sort of video of the day's festivities. Let me introduce myself first of all. My name is the Big Daddy D, David Mabley, and it's no good trying to rub me off.
And I am Luke Murphy, and I know I'm human.
You sure?
I'll do a blood test later.
Good. So, we're going to pop inside the festival for the very first film of the day, which is the rural horror classic,
The Blood on Satan's Claw.
Blood on Satan's Claw. Fantastic. So I can't wait to see that. And we've also got other films as well to look forward to.
We've got John Carpenter's The Thing to look forward to. We've got From Beyond the Grave to look forward to. We have a short horror film showcase to look forward to. We're not entirely sure how many films are going to be involved in this. But that's going to be brilliant. We've also got a mystery film.
A mystery film, that's right.
Which we're not entirely sure of either.
And there's also Virgin Witch, which is basically a softcore porn film.
Yes.
With some heroin, which I don't think we'll be sticking around for.
Well, we're definitely going to stick around for, because your 20-year-old son is with us at the moment, and it will be, quite frankly, cringe.
Very, very awkward.
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
we're not going to do that.
In his words, I'm not sat here in a dark room with a load of strangers watching a softcore porn with me dad.
No, it's perfectly acceptable.
But we will review.
We will mention that.
We will watch that separately.
I think that's even worse saying that.
For reviewing purposes, and we'll meet up in the bunker for that. So there's going to be footage of us around the festival, there'll be footage of us reflecting on it in the bunker.
With lots of other stuff about the festival and what have you. We'll try and capture as much as we can for you. As much as we can, as best we can. So yeah,
let's not waste any more time. Let's
enjoy,
get inside.
everybody.
Enjoy.
See you soon.
Tygon British Film Productions was a relatively short-lived film production and distribution company, but it certainly left its mark upon the horror genre, producing such films as amazing as Witchfinder General in 1968, starring the legendary Vincent Price, and As Bad as Virgin Witch in 1972, which was also being shown at the Leeds Horror Film Festival later that same evening.
Oh dear. Anywho, one film that was made in between these two opposing efforts of quality was The Blood on Satan's Claw in 1971, a British supernatural folk horror movie. And this film does draw quite heavily on the themes of witchcraft and rural superstition that were also in Witchfinder General. It even goes so far as to repeat certain segments from that film, such as the sequence in which a woman is chucked into a body of water by the locals who suspect that she's a witch.
What you done?
There's a witch. Oh, so we swung her, eh? See if she floats.
How'd you know she be a witch?
We know if she don't sink, she be one.
If she sink, you done her murder.
Oops. So she might not have been a witch after all. Never mind. At least we now know.
You live and learn.
You do.
The The Blood on Satan's Claw also copies Witchfinder General's idea of there being an actual book of witches, although the pictures in this book look like they were drawn by a 5-year-old. The film also feels like a precursor to the likes of The Wicker Man, another British pagan horror classic, as well as Children of the Corn.
And seeing as how The Wicker Man is being re-released for its 50th anniversary in a nice 4K restoration, I reckon that might end up being covered as a future episode of this ear show.
I certainly wouldn't object to that.
It would be a very nice thing, you know, some sort of folk horror trilogy with this, The Blood on Satan's Claw, Witchfinder General, and The Wicker Man.
Provided we don't get cancelled before then, of course.
Provided we don't get cancelled before then.
Doctor, witchcraft is dead and discredited. Are you bent on reviving forgotten horrors?
Set in early 18th century England, the film follows the residents of a small rural village whose youth begin to fall under the influence of a demonic presence after a local farmer unearths a mysterious deformed skull buried in a field. Soon after this discovery, very strange things begin to happen, including mysterious illnesses, people growing fur on unusual parts of their body, people getting clawed appendages for some reason, and of course some lethal games of blind man's buff, as the young folk of the village slowly begin to convert into a coven of devil worshippers.
There is growing amongst you all an insolent ungodliness, which I will not tolerate.
The film was directed by Piers Haggard and starred Linda Hayden and Barry Andrews, who had both appeared in Hammer Studios' Taste the Blood of Dracula the year before. Hayden's nude scene in this film, where she attempts to seduce the local reverend, certainly raised a few eyebrows at the time, and possibly some other body parts as well. Yes, that's right folks, this film contains gratuitous female nudity. Of course, it then all starts to get a little bit creepy when you find out that Hayden was only 17 years old at the time, because we didn't have IMDb back in the 70s to check an actress's date of birth. Yeah, that hasn't aged at all well, has it?
No, it really hasn't. The Reverend Fallowfield is played by Anthony Ainley, who would later become better known as the fourth actor to portray the Master in Doctor Who. And just to add to even more to the Doctor Who connection, as we usually love to do on this here programme, we also have Wendy Padbury, who previously played Zoe, the companion of the second Doctor. She's also in this film as well.
And in the film's most notorious and controversial scene, Padbury's character, Kathy Vespers, meets a horribly grisly end by a ritualistic murder. Earlier on in the film, Kathy's brother Mark is lured away to his death by a couple of girls asking him to come and play with him, one of whom is played by Roberta Tovey in an uncredited role. Tovey, of course, played the part of Susan in the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies from Amicus Studios, which we have covered on the channel in some depth before.
Wilt thou come and play with us, Mark? Please?
Play girls' games.
Angel has taught us some new games. Please come. Angel wants thee.
And speaking of Cushing, he was originally offered the role of the village's judge for this film, but he had to decline due to his wife's illness at the time. Christopher Lee was also considered as well, but his asking fee was far too much for the film.
So, Patrick Wymark was cast instead. Good to know that it's like, well, you're not his first choice, you're not even his second choice, but, you know, you are currently available and you're not going to charge a shitload of money, so...
Exactly.
Yeah. And to be fair, he does put on a brilliantly hammy performance throughout, to the point where, when he disappears from the film after the first half an hour and doesn't show up again until the end, you really do miss him. Well, I certainly did anyway.
He's actually, Patrick Wymark is a really good actor.
He's excellent,
you know,
yes.
He's one of those British character actors that will just pop up in the film, and immediately you'll say, "Oh, it's him." So when we were watching this, I was thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute, he's the Colonel from Where Eagles Dare."
But understand, I shall use undreamed of measures.
And, as the judge in this film, he both manages to be a complete badass and a complete arsehole at the same time. To the point where you're not actually always sure if he's meant to be one of the good guys or not. He's morally ambiguous, decides in his own way who is innocent, and he won't hesitate to tie people up and threaten them with a sword, or set wild dogs on them.
Leave me to judge who is innocent.
And by the end of the film, he's got himself a second, even bigger sword to swing around in slow motion. Considering the size of the blade and that it appears to have a crucifix as part of the sword's handle, it's something that wouldn't look out of place in a Final Fantasy game.
Also, the film was probably coming just under the 90-minute runtime, so this scene took the Garth Marenghi approach and was considered for slow motion.
Sadly, this performance is also twinged with sadness, as this would be Wymark's last film. He would pass away just 3 months before the film's release.
I mean, there's a real sense of creeping unease and unsettling tension throughout the film. It's helped along by a fantastically edgy soundtrack by Mark Wilkinson, an Australian composer who had previously worked alongside Haggard in the National Theatre. The film was shot in a small village, amusingly titled Bix Bottom. Yes, that's not. I have not made that up. I have not made that up.
Welcome to Britain.
Welcome to Britain. The village of Bix Bottom, which is in Oxfordshire. It was filmed in that village and sort of the surrounding areas as well. There's some truly eerie shots of a dark and mysterious countryside, which makes for an unsettling atmosphere throughout the film.
Right, we're just taking a bit of a break, because that film's not for everyone. There's a few scenes where you see various men sort of descending on young ladies. There's a particular scene in a disused church which is somewhat disturbing to watch. There's moments where we're seeing people who are depicted as teenagers basically getting down to some sexual deviancy and also a bit of the old mutilation and what have you. Admittedly, the director of the film, Piers Haggard, he did admit during an interview as part of Mark Gattis's fantastic History of Horror series that he did on BBC. He sort of says, yeah, looking back, you know, it was the 70s, it was like very much that's what people did in these films, you know, you had to have this sort of kind of thing. But he did say, sort of looking back in hindsight, yeah, the film does go a bit too far, it does go a bit excessive. In like 2023 eyes, you sort of watch it and you go, yeah, it goes to places where it shouldn't do. Although having said that, there are a number of times where that film just gets unintentionally hilarious. We were like laughing out a few times, you know. Best way of you know, resolving a medical condition or someone being hysterical, just slap them across the face, you know. And the judge's way of dealing with the problem is like, yeah, let it get worse before we do what about it. So basically taking the COVID approach, really.
So the film was originally intended to be part of an anthology, with the skeleton being used to tie 3 separate stories together, seeing as how Amicus Studios has already proven to be very, very successful with that format. The 3 stories were going to include a woman being locked in an attic by her abusive aunt, a man that cuts off his own hand because he's convinced that he's been possessed by the devil, as you do, and a bunch of children that come across an odd-looking skeleton in a farmer's field. Now, sadly, changing this from an anthology of 3 stories to a single story, it does the finished film more harm than good, because he tries to shoehorn the 3 into the 1. So,
and although elements of the 3 stories you've mentioned are here in this film, they're not really weaved together all that well. Some characters just completely disappear from the film entirely, without a trace. And the mother of Mark and Kathy Vespers seems to get over the sudden and, quite frankly, violent deaths of both her children rather a little too quickly.
Yeah.
As a result, the film does feel like it's been chopped down considerably from what it was originally supposed to be. And it seems to be uncertain at times over which direction it's going in, and copying ideas from Witchfinder General does not do the film any favours either.
And also, let's be honest here, if the arrival of the devil himself is going to be in the form of patches of hair appearing on the body, then applying a little bit of Vite for men is going to solve that particular problem. Although, you might want to get it applied pretty sharpish. You see those people outside with the torches and the pitchforks? Yeah, they're here for you.
So,
are the levels on?
Naturally, we'll be filming some bits and pieces.
I am here.
The bunker as well.
Yeah.
But we'll also be filming some sections where we're actually at the festival itself. We've just finished watching The Blood on Satan's Claw. So,
Why have we watched it?
Despite its flaws, and they are numerous ones, and despite some questionable scenes, it is a fantastic slice of
fantastic piece of
horror, and it does deserve to be better known than what it actually is. I feel have that in a trilogy along with Witchfinder General and The Wicker Man, and you will have a bloody good time. Although your eyebrows might get thicker than usual.
I mean, to be fair, you know, that poor lass, she needed a good.
She needed
a good eyebrow trim.
You were saying to me during the film, it's like get a bit of Veet for Men, slapped on there, and she's sorted.
What on earth just happened? Yeah, like it's like what the hell? Yeah.
There was parts of it that gave serious creepy vibes.
Creepy vibes. Cheese.
Parts of it was just so cheesy it was unreal.
And you could tell the 70s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sideburns. Yes.
I mean, somebody needs to introduce some razors to some people.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like, if that's the mark of the devil, then a lot of us are screwed.
Yeah, Gillette, the best a man or the devil can get.
But my friends, that is only the first film in this Leeds Horror Film Festival. There are many more to come. So, do come back in part 2 for a little bit of this.
You gotta be fucking kidding.